Welcome back, Shalloners. Well, today we're going to tackle a topic that you guys have been asking for a long time, which is Pete Davidson, and not just Pete Davidson, but his bizarre, or is it bizarre, relationship with model Kaia Gerber, who is 18 years old, Cindy Crawford's daughter. And we're going to break down Pete's new interview with Paper Magazine, the one where he's on the cover like a Ken doll, but with like, he's penisless, which is supposed to be funny because apparently he's got a huge dick. Okay, fascinating. All right. Yay. Great. So we're going to break down some of the red flags I saw in this interview and why Kaia needs to watch out. But first, just want to remind you guys, if you want to talk to me one-on-one, have a question that you need answered, find me on my website, shallonlester.com, where you can shop my merch collection and take a quiz to see how your Instagram matches up. Also, head to murderapparel.com to buy this new collaboration, Cash Check Break Next. We have a new collab coming out, so get this one before it's gone. I love it. It looks like it glows in the dark. Does it glow in the dark? No, it doesn't, but it's still really cool. Also follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO, where I let you vote on the next video topic like you did this one, and listen to my podcast, Girl on Top, out every Wednesday. So Pete covered Paper Magazine, and if there's one thing I hate, it's like a magazine that tries to inflate its own importance. It's like when someone tries to give themselves a nickname. Like, your nickname's not Bubbles, Kristen. Like, let it go. And Paper Magazine is always like, break the internet. Oh, it's a break the internet issue. It's like, you're not breaking the internet. Nobody cares that much about Pete Davidson, because they had like one good success with that Kim K picture where she's holding the champagne and it's popping over onto her like Photoshop sort of exaggerated butt. I mean, it was exaggerated, but she's up there. And it bothered me that that did so much traffic, because that literally came out on the day that we landed a spaceship onto a comet. Humans did that, and more people were talking about Kim's butt, which I guess are both pieces of man-made science that have done something, whatever. So, Paper Magazine is trying to be very highfalutin with their like break the internet thing. So they chose Pete Davidson, and they asked him about all sorts of things. They asked him about Ariana Grande, and he's like, I hope she's well. I don't want to comment, blah, blah, blah. The article was annoying because like it was very much a portrait in the reporter's like burgeoning love for Pete Davidson. The reporter's gay, and he's like, I didn't want to interview him. I didn't think I'd like him. Straight guys make me uncomfortable, like you and me both, girl. But then it became obvious he's like obsessed with him, and it's like, I don't give a shit about your obsession with, like, you're not a celebrity, dude. Like, I don't really want to. Okay, so it was very like, oh, I love this guy, but that's the thing. That's kind of the whole thesis statement. As he's like, what my takeaway from interviewing Pete Davidson was, I feel like I'm having a stroke today. Is the vitamin water doing this? Ugh. This is why I never drank it when I played sports. Never. His takeaway was like, Pete Davidson's galvanizing trait is love. He's just this dude with this big heart, and he loves you. Like, if he likes you, he loves you. And he doesn't care if it like looks gay or is weird. He tells you he loves you. He texts you like, hey man, I'm here for you, blah, blah, blah. And he just kind of like swallows you up in this big loving like teddy bear embrace. That sounds great, doesn't it? What could possibly be wrong with that? Ooh, let me tell you. 3 little words: borderline personality disorder. Pete's been open that he has BPD, and like we've talked about borderline a lot here on this channel, and one thing that I have said that psychologists have told me, I'm not a doctor, is that BPD is very often created by narcissistic parents. Because here's what happens: borderline personality it's an attachment disorder, right? And the way it manifests is people who are very, very extreme. Like when they love you, it's like they are love bombing you, calling all the time. I love you, gifts, presents, I want to spend all of it, I want to get married, let's get matching tattoos, blah, blah, blah. It's just like this tidal wave of affection, right? But then it'll switch. You're at the grocery store too long, you stay 45 minutes too late out with the friends, it's 75 text messages. It's a screaming rage when you get home. All your shit's out on the front lawn. And it's these huge swings, these opposite swings, because again, it's an attachment disorder. So basically, this person with BPD will latch on to a partner as their entire identity, their entire everything. You're my whole world, you're my whole world. And that can be very, very beguiling. That can feel very good. Because what have I said before? When an unhealthy person comes along, sometimes it feels like true love because it clicks right on in to those deep psychological issues. If maybe we have issues with kind of being ignored by a parent, or just even if we're healthy, who doesn't want to feel this tidal wave of love, just like sweep over us? The swept away phenomenon is actually something that leads to a lot of unplanned pregnancies. Like, psychologists have found this because girls, like, when they're in a sexual situation, it's like, we were just swept away. We were caught up in the moment. I didn't want to get a condom. I didn't want to tell him to pull out. It's because we want to be sort of carried out of our lives and into this fantasy by love or by a person, right? So how does that relate to narcissistic parents? Okay, well, again, what I've been told is that narcissistic parents are very into a small child. They're into like a baby, you know, because the baby needs them, the baby idolizes them, But then when the child naturally, around like 4, 5, 6 years old, grows up and starts branching away, Mom, don't sing in the car, don't walk me into daycare. They start to have their own life, which they should. This is natural. The narcissistic parent is like, oh, really? Well, fine. Okay. You go entertain yourself then today. I'm going out and doing something. They withhold the love because they feel slighted. The narcissist feels slighted. And it terrifies the child. And they're like, no. And so then they spend their whole life trying to recapture their parents' attention, but still while trying to forge their own individuality, which is natural. And what do we know about Pete? His father died on September 11th. It's a horrible thing. It's absolutely unbelievable. Why do we know this about Pete? Because he never shuts up about it. He brings it up in every single interview. I think he was 6 years old. Look, there's no good age to lose a parent. I've lost one myself. But that's the thing. I don't talk about it every single video. I don't talk about it with almost anybody. I mean, my therapist, like my good friends, but it's something that I do not choose to carry into my current set of decision making because I'm an adult. Okay? And we play the cards that we're dealt, and they're not always a great hand. Pete talks about losing his dad every single time someone interviews him. They don't even have to bring it up. He brings it up. This tells me that there's more than grief beneath there. You know, grief, it settles in. It's like a rock in your shoe. You just keep going, you feel it, it's there, but you keep on moving forward. This is something entirely different for him. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe his dad was a narcissistic parent. And so this, like his dad was already like withholding love and sort of like terrorizing him like that in a way. And then he died and it was like, you know, it was the absolute worst case scenario that played out. And that just like, boom, like cemented that borderline disorder. Maybe his mother never moved on. Maybe she either like idolized the dad in a way that like every day is September 11th for her. I have a friend who works for the NYPD, and because Pete's dad, I think he was a firefighter, maybe he was a cop, but he was a responder. And yeah, like she said that it's very interesting, the pathology of like first responder widows. Some of them, they process the grief in a normal way, but a lot of them stay in that bubble of grief, and it becomes their identity. It becomes their identity. And not for like selfish reasons, you know, not because they're like, I'm gonna like pity this. Sometimes, you know, they lean into that martyr thing, but sometimes it's like this is the community that they're in, and like that's the label that they now have, and that's how everybody treats them. It's like, oh, that's Kathy, like Anthony's widow, you know, like that's the thing that they're known for now, and you live that label. But there's something under there. I don't know what it is. I don't fucking really care, but it's very telling. And why? What does any of this have to do with Kaia Gerber, right? Well, we've talked about Pete before. We talked about him with Ariana, and we talked about him with Kate Beckinsale. And I love Kate Beckinsale. I mean, I love her because she's like me. She looks amazing. That girl is 46 years old. Like, between her and Kristen Bell and J-Lo and Gwen Stefani, I'm like, what? Is there some like woodland magical forest creature that you're like drinking the blood of? Like, I need to know. Kate Beckinsale's 46. Ariana Grande is 26. Pete is also 26. So Kaya Gerber is 18. So it's interesting that he has had like someone his own age, someone a lot older, and now he's with someone a lot younger. He's like Goldilocks. And I think it's interesting that like both of those women, Ariana and Kate, were like, no, they dumped him. Like they dumped him because on some level they saw how unhealthy this was. I think Ariana saw it like the greatest, the grandest. I'm sorry. Because she spent the most time with him. Kate, I think he just kind of like wore out his usefulness. I worry about Kaya because she's young, right? Because when we talk about these age gaps in dating, we have to not think about how many numbers it is, like how many years actual on paper distance between the two people. We have to think about life arenas. Who's in a different life arena than the other person? Kate and what's his name, Pete, I guess they're in the same life arena, you know, like whatever. Ariana and Pete, similar life arena, but less so because she was so much more successful than him, right? She was in this like stratosphere of fame that he was just kind of like wading into. So that, in that sense, no, maybe they weren't in the same life arena, but him and Kaya definitely are not. I don't care if you're 18, like how mature you are at 18. And I'm sure Kaya is very mature. She has like a big girl job. You know, she has 2 famous parents. She traveled. She's international. She probably speaks a few languages. I'm sure she's a very mature girl and she's doing exactly what she should be doing. But a 26/27-year-old man should not feel like he has the same things in common with an 18-year-old girl, practically a legal child. If he does, that means it's not that she's so mature, it's that he's stunted, right? And girls his age see through that shit. An 18-year-old might not. And you can make the argument that, okay, they're both celebrities, like they both do their thing, they're in the same life arena. Fine. Let's say that they are. You probably aren't. If you're 18, you're dating a 26-year-old, I doubt you're a model and he's an SNL comedian. Maybe I'm wrong. But even if you are, sexually, you guys are not in the same arena. He has been having sex with people for probably 10 years, and I dare say an 18-year-old girl has not, right? So, especially since this guy's whole vibe is like big dick energy, dick, penis, horse penis. He's DP'd a girl with Machine Gun Kelly. I don't mean a threesome. I mean a DP. Ooh. That's next level. And that is not what an 18-year-old girl should be adjacent to. Like, that's not someone she should have in her life. That's so intense, man. I didn't even kiss anyone when I was 18. Like, that's just too much. And when you couple that with his love bombing, Kaya, man, you better watch out. But Kaya's got some issues going on of her own. That is a thin little girl. And, you know, a huge part of that is like her body structure. You know, she's just built thin. But I've always heard, I used to be a celebrity journalist, and we heard many, many times that Cindy Crawford, her mom, had her on like a calorie limit because she wanted her to be a model, you know, and Kaya wanted to be a model too, which is frustrating because Cindy was never that wafy model. Like, that was back in the 90s when, oh, hello, like women could look like women until Kate Moss came along, and it's like, oh no, you have to look like a giraffe. You can't look like a woman. Are those thighs touching? You're disgusting. No. So I think there's been some things going on with Kaya about like self-worth and eating. Who even knows? I hope that that's not true, because I've been there, you've probably been there, and it is not a fun place to be emotionally. So her brother's weird. He reminds me of like a villain on Gossip Girl, and he like got a tattoo about his sister. I think that's weird. Is that weird? I don't know. I don't have siblings. Is that not weird? Would you think it's weird if your brother got a tattoo for you? I don't know. I've also heard Randy hooks up with George Clooney. Who knows? Again, the gay Hollywood mafia only claims the hot ones. They only claim the hot ones, you know? They're not coming for like Michael Rappaport, okay? So I already see Kaya as kind of this little bird that I want to protect, you know? And I mean, she's in a very predatory industry. Fame is very difficult. Yes, she has good parents who love her and I think are like protecting her. I don't know, man. I don't know. But she seems very, very vulnerable. Like she lacks the armor to deal with someone like Pete Davidson. And let's read a few, just a sentence or two from his interview. Because these are the things that stuck out to me. Okay. So one thing he talked about is how he's learned that basically his love bombing, he's not describing it as such, but he's like, when I'm in a relationship, I want to treat them like a princess. I want to make them feel as special as possible. Like, that's your job, right? That's the whole point of being in a relationship. So like, I go above and beyond and I do all these things and blah, 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 blah. And, that doesn't always work in my favor because either it creeps the person out because they can't, match my intensity. Or if they try, they don't meet that similar height and intensity, and then I feel slighted and upset. He's like, so you just can't do that. He said, I've learned that anything you do, it just has to be because you want to do it. No expectations. Otherwise, you're going to be resentful. It's something I had to learn in a past relationship, which sucked to learn through that person, but it makes you better. I used to get really upset that this person didn't match my intensity or how much I show by actions, I'm not really good at accepting just words because people could say shit all the time. And this person was very word heavy. So because of how insane I am and how untrustworthy and scared I am, I couldn't take that. So I had to learn that you just have to do other stuff just because you want to. This sounds very woke, right? I read this, I was like, he's demonstrating self-awareness and you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Exactly. So I'm like, okay, it sounds like he did learn something from these past relationships, but I just don't want an 18-year-old girl to be his practice round, okay? You save that for Kate Beckinsale. She'll straighten you out like a piece of wire, right? I don't fuck with Kate Beckinsale, but that's the thing. She probably doesn't want to. She probably saw exactly who Pete Davidson was and is like, no, thank you. I'm going to pass, thank you. I'll take the dick and then you can leave. Like, ooh, that's what she's going to do. Same with Ariana. She's like, I've got my own things going on. An 18-year-old though, or even if you're not 18, if you're someone who just is feeling vulnerable, you're not 100%, because what do we say? Dating isn't 50-50, it's 100-100. So if you aren't at 100 or very close to it, you're going to see Pete as the broken bird. Oh, his dad died. Oh, this and that. Oh, he just wants love. Who am I to tell him that it's too much, it's too intense, this isn't appropriate, this is moving too fast? He's just trying to give me love. I want you to take the word love and I want you to replace it with something else, okay? Because no relationship should be defined by one dominant thing that either this person is demanding or this person is giving. Here's what I mean. If we switch that to anger, his dominant emotion is anger. Everything is about his anger. And when we fight, if I don't engage at the same intensity, that makes him even angrier. You'd be like, that's not healthy. If it was sex, all he wants is sex. Everything's about sex. And if I don't give him the same amount of sex, I'm the bad guy. That's not good. You put any other word there, anger, sex, power, money, any of these things, then suddenly you can see that this is unhealthy. But because it's love, this is the patriarchy whispering in our ear that who the fuck are you to deny a man's love? How dare you, bitch? You think you have the right to say that's not okay with me? Who the fuck do you think you're not good enough? You have no choice but to have a beggar's mentality and take whatever a man offers you, whether it's too little or whether it's too much. What do you say, you want something healthy in the middle? Fuck you, bitch. That's what that inner voice is telling you, and you got to sit down and listen to it, because the psyche will be heard, and she'll be heard louder and louder and louder. But that's not our true psyche. That's the demon brain. That's the patriarchy brain, right? That's where those messages are coming from. Your real brain is telling you this isn't healthy. This doesn't feel the way it should. It might look the way society says it should. The gifts, the trips, the intensity, the marriage proposals, the tattoos, the whatever. But it doesn't feel safe to me. It doesn't feel restful. It feels like I'm on a roller coaster. And that's fun for a minute. Roller coasters about what, 90 seconds long, right? They're not 6 months. It's not healthy. It feels like eating a whole bag of Skittles, just dumping that shit into your mouth. It's kind of intense and exciting in the minute, and then you're like, I made a mistake. You feel unhealthy, you feel sick. If this is the feeling you feel, you got to get out of that relationship. I don't care what society says. I don't care what your friends say. I especially don't care what he says. But I just want to love you. This is not how I accept love, right? And again, this is not how I accept blank. You use another word there. This is not how I accept sex, okay? I don't want to be titty fucked. I don't want to have a gangbang on camera. That's not how I accept sex, right? That's valid. What if it's even gifts? I just want to give you this llama and these 3 swans. Why won't you let me? That's not what I want as a gift. I don't find that to be a gift. I find it to be a burden and frightening. Get these llamas out of my house. They spit. But when it's love, who are we? What? How can I deny it? So look at the situation in your life and try to step back and be as neutral as possible. And be like, if I gave this behavior pattern a different word, a different name, a different context, would it be crazy? And would I now be able to see so much clearer what's actually going on, right? Because you do not owe anyone anything. And I used to have this mentality. I had the beggar's mentality because I had begged. I had spent my whole adolescence begging the gods, every god I could think of to pray to, for a boy to be noticed, to be liked, to be kissed, to be had sex with. I just wanted that experience. So when someone came along who I didn't have an attraction to or who was just crappy and a fuckboy, I was like, well, I did wish for something. And I had this attitude of well, who am I to deny the gifts of the gods, the blessings that I've been praying for? You know who I was to deny that? An individual bad bitch. The real gods who are going to deliver you things, they want you to be happy. These false things they're delivering for you, these are tests. These are tests to see if you truly are worthy of receiving from life the blessings you actually deserve. We only have so much time. We only have so much energy. Are you orienting your time and your energy onto those false blessings, right? Onto these paper mache love idols. Step back and ask yourself this, because it's okay to say, no, thank you. This doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel restful. I'm moving on. I want to know what you guys have to say about Kaya and Pete. Do you think this is going to crash and burn? Do you think he's going to mess this girl up? Or is he just kind of so immature? He's like, oh, the homies, they come over and chill. Stop using the word homies. That word, it makes my skin, I got the douche chills. They're here. I got the douche chills. It's such a gross, juvenile. It's so Beavis and Butthead. It's not gross. It's just juvenile. You're 26 years old, bro. I guess bro's pretty juvenile too. You wanted to be someone's husband. You're I sit in my basement and the homies come over and we smoke weed and we microdose and we watch movies. Ugh. Isn't there a frat you should be rushing? I do wonder how big his dick is. Anyway, I want to know your opinion on these two and Pete in general. Do you think he'll get back together with Ariana one day? Do you think maybe someone like Kate Beckinsale is more his speed? He should be with an older woman who's going to be don't do this. Rule with an iron fist, as I rule my young lovers. They like it. For more, like I said, follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO and listen to my podcast, Girl on Top. Also, shop cash checks, break necks, link right down here in the bio. And if you have a love question, find me on my website, shallonlester.com.